Thank you for coming to this very exciting lecture this morning. We also want to welcome the students on Zoom from Shandong University of Art and Design to join us in this lecture. Today we are very pleased to have this, what I call a new tech designer, Carlos Banon, good friend of mine. And wait, I should read your new bio. I'm still holding on to the old one. Okay, just give me a sec. Yeah. Okay, so I want to give a short introduction of Carlos. Spanish architect and professor of computational design based in Singapore, Carlos Banon crafts the architecture of the future. Blending AI with deep human intuition, he reshapes landscape in the intersection of art and resource efficiency. Showcased at the Venice Biennale, London Design Museum, and Triennale of Milano, his innovative work has not only captured the attention of the global art and design community, but also earned him the prestigious Singapore President's Design Award. As the founder of the Architectural Intelligence Research Lab, AirLab, at the SUTD, Singapore University of Technology and Design, in 2015, Carlos has pioneered the integration of AI and digital fabrication in architectural design. His commitment to resource-efficient, computationally driven methodologies positions him as a leading figure in shaping the sustainable urban landscapes of tomorrow. With a career distinguished by lectures at renowned institutions and workshops around the world, he continues to inspire a new generation with his visionary approach to tech-centric design. And today, of course, Carlos is going to share with us on how AI is getting more and more commonplace in today's world. Besides simplifying work processes, it has also become a very useful tool for design conceptualization. In design education, we should learn to harness AI's power to elevate the possibilities of design expression. Imagine the impossible and form a new kind of collaboration with AI. And now I would like to get one of my students to translate into Chinese for the Shandong University students. Alicia, come stand here.
大家早上好，非常高兴能够在今天的演讲会上欢迎到各位，以及我们非常荣幸能够邀请到山东工艺美术学院的同学们和我们一起参与这次演讲会。那么今天我们的演讲主题是混合视野走向新的设计智能。所以在今天的演讲中，我们将了解到在设计教育中如何利用人工智能的力量提升设计表达的可能性，想象更多不可能的事情。 我们今天非常荣幸邀请到了 Carlos Banon 先生来到我们的现场。首先让我做一个简短的介绍，关于我们的 Banon 先生，他是常驻新加坡的一位西班牙建筑师和运算化设计教授，注重于打造未来式建筑。他将 AI 与人类非凡的直觉相融合，在艺术与资源效益的交汇中重塑景观。 他的创新作品曾在威尼斯双年奖、伦敦设计博物馆和米兰3年展上展出，不仅吸引了全球艺术和设计界的关注，还为他赢得了著名的新加坡总统设计奖。作为2015年新加坡科技设计大学建筑智能研究室的创始人 ，Banon 率先将 AI 和数字制造整合到建筑设计中。他致力于采用资源节约型和设计驱动型的方法，这也让他成为塑造未来可持续城市景观的领军人物。他曾在世界各地的知名机构和研讨会上发表演讲，其职业生涯成就斐然，并且他以技术为中心的设计和着实的远见，不断激励着新一代的人们。那么接下来，让我们欢迎我们的 Banon 先生。
For Shandong University students, if you have some questions, you can key into the chat in Zoom.
我们山东工艺美术学院的同学们，如果你们有任何的问题，可以将问题留在我们的 Zoom 会议的这个留言板上。
Yeah, and then we will get Mr. Carlos to address your questions at the end of the talk.
所以在 Banon 先生的演讲最后，他会从留言板上选择一些问题来进行回答。
Okay, and without much further ado, let us put our hands together for Carlos Banon.
Thank you, Kelly, for a very nice presentation and the invitation to be here to close this series of lectures. And really excited to to be sharing my, my work and experiences on, well, mostly on AI. I'm gonna actually focus on the AI side towards the last part of the presentation. But at the beginning, I'm gonna also show you some context before we go deep into AI. So let's see if the clicker, I just go here and try to get the clicker to work. Okay, this one, yeah. So, so I called the talk today Hybrid Horizons towards a new design intelligence with AI. And I want to start with a statement from the CEO of Google that basically talks about the growth that the computational power is experiencing, doubling the power in a very fast pace. So that is what we call the Moore's law. So in the Moore's law, basically we can see here in this diagram the evolution and the number of transistors and microchips that doubles approximately every 2 years when the cost of computers is halved. So if we go back in time, we go to, well, 1982, feels far, it's 42 years ago. So this is how a computer worked. We had AutoCAD V1.0. This is what we could do with computers to draw. So we were using a little limited number of transistors and just only 2 bits for representation. As we move forward, we start working with more transistors, more bits. So we use Amstrad CPC as this one, the Z80. And this is actually my first computer, and this is actually me. In 1984, I was actually drawn to work with computers, and I started working coding from early stages, and really helped my career development. But then we were working with very limited resources. We continued the progression. In 1981, we have Photoshop, the first version. You have it here. And progressively, now we're moving into Pentium 3. Pentium 3 and Rhino version 1 was released. So we're working with NURBS, with curves, with smooth geometry, and every project was very blobby, very smooth, right? At the beginning, when the tool is released, we try to maximize the power of the tool. Then continue to 2007, where Grasshopper for Rhino was released by David Rutten and Robert McNeil. And you can see here the power of the computers now is 250 million transistors. It's actually getting more powerful. So we're able to move complex geometries to code real time and display results in that fashion. 2010, as well, 3D printing starts. In the architectural way, or in pavilions like this one by ICD start to take shape, taking advantage of the computational power and the technology that was released. So getting closer to today, we're looking at 2020 when the model, the pre-trained model GPT was released by OpenAI and was, was kind of like revolutionary, but was not probably still getting the dimension that it got recently with the GPT 3.5 or GPT-4. So GPT-4 in 2023 by OpenAI was a game changer, and we started seeing a big transformation. And of course, taking advantage of the new processors like Apple M3 with 50 billion transistors compared to just 4 years ago. So that's the exponential the movement that we're having right now with technology and where we are. So it's been like not much time between when Autodesk was released, AutoCAD 1.0 and now ChatGPT. And for me, these 2 icons is basically expresses the shift of paradigm in which we are, right? It's like we use computational tools, actually we call it tools, as something that is gonna aid human work, where now we're looking at computational power to be intelligent, to act as a new intelligence. So a shifting paradigm from tools that perform specific tasks to something that could learn and adapt over time. And also we are kind of like needing direct human control, where now we have semi-autonomous systems. So we're moving to a complete different space. It's not a tool that we know exactly what it does. Now we have intelligence, right? This is called, for me, an intelligence. I wouldn't call it as a tool anymore. It's way more complex. It's way more advanced. So we're moving into that paradigm. So from something more traditional where we are basically used to assist us to something that we can collaborate with. And definitely AI seeks to make computers, quoting Margaret Bowden, to do the sort of things that minds can do. That's a big statement about what AI is for me. So before I delve into AI, I'm going to talk about what happened basically to my career before the impact of AI. So to share where I come from. So I always tried as an architect, as a designer, to be in control, to try to address complex geometries, complex challenges, and to somehow, as an architect, to try to own every single part of the designs that I make. So a focus on 3D printing, and when you 3D print something, you design for 3D printing, you're in control of every single ounce of material that you're going to use in that construction. You can place it exactly where you want. So you have deliberate control of the mass and the placement of your elements that define the space. So I focus over the last 7 years of my research on space frame structures. Space frame structures are defined by bars and nodes. Here you see standard nodes. And the standard nodes look like this, typically as a regular piece. So what I wanted to do is to challenge the way that those connections could be done, taking advantage of the current technologies by then, which is 3D printing and computational design. So on the right-hand side, that's the vision of the future of construction, where we have free-form, geometric continuity, and slenderness instead of something bulky and over-dimensioned. It was inspired by neural networks. Now neural networks have a different relevance. But the aesthetics and the topology of it was the thing that inspired me to develop this system where we have 3D printed nodes, and also we have standard profiles. And the combination of both creates a free-form system capable of transfer the forces to the center of each of the nodes. And this was developed as a system. So we have a parametric design model that can be reconfigured real time depending on the geometry that we want to make. So this is the process from vectors to cylinders to a convex hull in a facet way, thickness, adding the connections, and all the parts are automated by the script. So we design coding, right? So coding gets extremely relevant these days to address those complex challenges that we are facing. And then we have 3D printing. So the combination of the coding with 3D printing allows us to produce these nodes where more than 80% of the piece is actually air. So we are saving materials. We are placing the material where it's needed. So by doing that, we can print in stainless steel, in trying to use existing materials, but in a complete different way and more efficiently done. So this is the generation. We basically analyze the forces of the structure. Then we assign a diameter for each of the bars based on the force, tension, compression. And then we create the components for all of them. So we have actually a dynamic model, a living structure that reacts to different efforts. So this model is kind of real-time calculated. We can make changes real-time of every part of the design. So we tested the system at small scale. We tested the system in a table. So we did this table. It's actually very thin. The bars are only 6 millimeters in diameter, and the nodes are 3D printed in metal. So we also tested at a larger scale, in this case using some nodes in metal and nylon and aluminum bars. Also, we did light installations like this one in 2017 for I Marina Bay, where the lights were concealed inside the bars and then became kind of a very inviting material, quite magical, that people could touch and react to the presence of people. So we tested the system in different contexts, in different materials, and even in the National Design Center, that structure became a chandelier. Also bamboo. So we developed the system to absorb the imperfections of bamboo and to create regular structures like this one that was in Daxton Hill for 3 months. And then we moved to Gardens by the Bay, our idea. The idea was to build something more permanent, like for 3 years, a pavilion that could take the load of people and could be code compliant, the first in the world, with stainless steel that was code compliant. So we developed all the connectors that you can see here. So we control every single part of these connectors. Even we print the threads for the bolts to go in. That's the depth that we get when we use computational design to fabricate these components. And then we label them. We have a model with the structured data, so we can actually label, we can connect them like IKEA. So we just go to the site, we just find the bar, find the node, and in 5 seconds we have a connection secured. And so we are able to make this structure in less than a day, just the researchers, 5 of us, putting it together. So, and this is actually code compliant. It's actually proper stainless steel structure that can take the load of people, furniture, living loads. So we tested it this way. So we put 3.5 tons of weight. With a 3D scanner, we can see that the variation and the movement of the structure. It was just a few millimeters. So again, talking about precision, right? I mean, when we look at this space right now, the position of every single point, the structures, the loads that travel through the structure has been deliberately calculated. So we feel really in control of each and every part of this pavilion, of this design, that we were fortunate enough to get here, Kelly, in the picture. The President Design Award, right during COVID times. We were able to be there at least, so it was tough times, but we made it, and we got the appreciation from the community of designers. But then, well, about 2 years ago, I would call it the impact, right? I mean, something happened. So something happened, and it was like almost for me, it was overnight. Because I've been working with AI in different projects. I was teaching a robotic arm to make a tall structure. I was trying to address the loads with AI to make like new aesthetics, but this was something new. I was like, what's this about? For me, it's like, okay, now I know human intelligence, but now we are now dealing with some new kind of intelligence, the human intelligence. So the core of this presentation is divided into 3 parts. The first one is going to be working with a new, fresh uncertainty. The second one is going to be taking control. The last part is more of the expansive waves in which we are. So this part here is like, I would call like navigating mid-journey with limited control. So from that pavilion in 2020, immediately I was able to create an image that was, this is actually my first prompt ever. So it was like, wow, what is this thing about Midjourney? So just drop in my Instagram. It's like, wow, these images are so cool. I had to try it. So I started working with, okay, materiality-wise, for me, likeness, elements that were thin, and fabrics were something that I was very drawn to. So I was creating this first prompt here, like trying to give some context. So the prompt is basically what you write, what you type to create the image, right? And then a series of images was created, so I was actually getting into producing those, realistic, but still at the same time were like kind of like very nice style with the lines, but it's not perfect. So that imperfection was actually very attractive. And then I was developing a series of prompts that somehow was fueling my interest on lightweight structures and these kind of atmospheres. So I found myself like, I was actually doing that everywhere. I mean, the interface for prompting, you can actually use your phone, you can use Discord, you can send it to the bot, and then you can create. So you're constantly creating, constantly thinking. You're traveling, you're in a plane, you're in a bus, you're actually prompting. So that's a compulsive approach to it. And then, but the question is like, well, you're sending this text message, you get an image. How does it work, right? I mean, that's one of the questions that maybe we could try to answer here. So it starts always with noise. So the image actually is noise, is made of noise. So I would say, okay, let's say this is a cat. So the cat is turned into noise, all right? So this is actually a cat turned into noise. And then we're gonna use algorithms to take that noise back to the cat. So there's a process which is the forward diffusion, which is how we turn the cat into noise. Okay, it's a predictable process that we turn that into noise. And then we have the reverse diffusion, which is when we get the cat back, all right? It's a simplified way to look at it, but we basically have that latent space where noise is actually what we have, all right? So the latent space is there. We encode the cat into that different coordinate system, different blocks, and then we decode it, and then we get something from that space, right? So we train the models. That's what we say, training the models to get into this latent space, and then we take it back in a different manner. So let's say we just prompt a cat wearing a hat in New York streets with reflection and night lights. So that noise starts to be denoised based on the prompt, and then we'll start getting the cat, And this is happening in real time. This is the speed that you get when you are actually denoising the image that was generated. So this cat, the resolution is actually quite good. It took just maybe 10 seconds to appear in front of us. And the good thing is like, well, if you actually ask the same prompt again, you're going to have like variations of the cat. So, well, if the noise changes, the cat will be a different one. So in the latent space, we can actually keep prompting. We'll get something new all the time. It's always an iteration, always variations on that. But how does this intuitively work? Which is another question that maybe is more relevant here. So when we have a prompt, the one below is the line I sent to Midjourney, right? So there I'm start invoking or evoking certain concepts. Let's say Janet Etchelman installation. Then this kind of fabrics appear somehow from the data set that has been trained, the female dancer, maybe the movement also is like somehow there. So it's not just one picture, it's many pictures and also some, aesthetics and dynamics related to it. So we are trying to create something with a number of like words that evoke many images, and then we create something new. So this is an image created with Midjourney 4, and then it's a bit random, right? Because every time you prompt, you're gonna get something new. But you're going to start using some levers to control. One is the weight, and one is the secondary prompt. The secondary prompt, after 2 columns, you can actually add another prompt that adds more context. And then you can start, let's say, saying something a bit more specific. And also you have the weights. So it's like this, for instance, fabrics start to have more weight. So it's more about the fabrics, or it could be more about the dancer. So you can start like somehow developing a certain way of prompting that is not just fully random. You start developing your own way to talk to AI. So this was, by then, the way I structure my prompts. Is like, well, I'm going to use like always references to the materials, to the geometry, to the actual location, to tectonics, to atmosphere creation, to users, to context, and then, of course, parameters like the seed, the quality, and style are also part of the prompt that allows you to control a bit better. So this is a sequence from Midjourney 3 to Midjourney 6, where we are right now. And you will see the evolution of the aesthetics and also the evolution of the prompts, because now we don't talk to Midjourney anymore the same way that we did 1 year ago. It's changing constantly. So you need to be learning how the models are changing as well, too. So these are series that were made experimenting that likeness. And then I found that we are producing images, but I wanted to get close to space, and 2.5D is a process that allows you to turn an image into somehow, a certain depth, certain movement around where you are. So this was actually at the beginning of Midjourney. I published this in Instagram. It was like crazy, like shared. I was like, wow, what's this about? Like people really are sharing this content. I was surprised of the power of the appetite for people to learn more about this. And this is basically created with this workflow, which is we have the image, we can create a Z map with AI. With the Z map, we can displace the image so we have a certain volume, and then we can do some segmentation as well, so we can cluster and assign different parts to the mesh. And with that, we can actually turn an image into a real landscape in just a few seconds. So the one on the left is an image in Midjourney. The one on the right is created with Rhino and rendering Lumion. So it's real-time rendering. So it's very fast, the way that we can do from an image a space that you can navigate. And it was 1.5 years ago. Talking now, as if it was really, really long ago, but it's 1.5 years ago. So then I was also trying to fuel my interest, like the landscape integration, try Midjourney, and the possibilities of like, can we try to weave architecture with a mountain, with something more belonging to nature? So I was creating this series in September 2023, and immediately, the reaction from my designer inside is to draw it. So for me, I put this slide because I like, for me, it's a statement. We're not fully, outsourcing our life to AI. This is not the way, and I think it's not going to be the way, at least for the next few years. I mean, we still have a good 5 to 10 years in which we are going to be working hand to hand with AI. So we need to establish that conversation where we are prompting, then we draw and sketch, we rationalize the geometry, we take it back to a 3D model, then we go back to AI. It's always like a conversation, and it's two-sided, all right? We need to live with that. And then we can ask AI to create more variations, or going deeper. This is Midjourney 4 in November 2023, and here we are looking at a series that tried to find consistency. So the word consistency is always there in AI, because when you prompt, you get very different things. So the difficult thing is to get similar things throughout, so you can create a consistent design. So here the exploration was to try to create indoor spaces that were consistent through different locations of that mountain. These are close-ups of concepts of porosity working with the ground. So I try to explore a more abstract approach in which we can create references that we can use for our own designs. Let's say this is probably not something you will build, but that reference could be interesting to have when we are conceiving a new design. So you can create your own references, and the quality was very fine. The depth of field, the focus was fantastic. So I was testing, right? I mean, it's like, can we represent as well the construction of these bamboo structures, not just the bamboo itself, but the process in which these structures could have been made. So it's not representing the final object, but the in-between stage. And this is an exploration on those spaces using bamboo and the construction of these structures. Here, exploration of patterns, trying to apply. I was working for a lattice design for Louis Vuitton. It's like, try to use Midjourney. I was trying to use Midjourney every single time I had a project or a question, so I can challenge the potential of the model. So this is the pattern applied into a wall, and the idea was to blend it, so it's not just adding, but maybe carving, and to integrate the pattern in existing constructions. Also taking the idea of the patterns to a space, explorations on that, trying to see if we can create images from image prompts, and then we can try to inform the space creation. And also at the smaller scale, looking at the fine detail of textures, weaving, and complex articulation of spaces. Here, we're looking at the pavilion that I showed you a while ago. This is Midjourney developing it further. It's like, maybe this is not fully buildable, but it's creating a certain direction that we could use to develop a future version of it, integrating steel and the aesthetics of bamboo. So here, Midjourney works really well for that. It blends very well different concepts and weaves them very, very smoothly. So here, the prompt was working with metal, bamboo, and optimized structures. And you can see the hybrid materiality that you can get. Testing intricate ornaments, like this part here with the Alhambra, seeing the grain, the resolution that we could get. And then we move to the next level. This Midjourney V5 is coming closer to our days. So this is, yes, March 2023. So here we're looking at a series of images that are very realistic. We're looking at this kind of cabins for a hotel that I was working for a project in Mexico. And the context is exactly the context that we are actually working. Describe the place, and the context was appearing, the slopes. This is working with another concept that we have with the water tanks as a swimming pool, like in the landscape. So exploring this, a bit more daring ideas. Working with style, here I was exploring concept designs for auditoriums inspired by the work of Enrique Miralles. So the style is actually carried very well when it comes to prompting interior spaces. And as well, I was testing the design of furniture with 3D printing. So here, the focus was not just on the furniture itself, but was on the user or also the designer. So the idea was to represent the people behind or the people using it that typically we don't have the chance to do. And AI start to blend, the color of the dress and the material that is used. Somehow, the leg is fused with the chair. This kind of thing happens in AI. But to me, that relationship between the person and that connection with the material, with the design itself, for me was amazing. Just to see someone doing that coming from AI side was very exciting. So I was focusing on that series, on creating furniture, but just also focusing on the person that could be behind, the creation of the furniture. This is more abstract, looking at art creation. So geometries that don't have a particular shape, so trying to prompt in a more abstract manner. So even though Midjourney 5 was going into a more realistic side, I was challenging the abstraction as well, so we could create more unexpected geometries. This is zenithal views of the landscape, trying to change the perception with the color. So this series is more about like these kind of shorelines with gradients of colors and depths, and interior spaces as well, exploring materiality. AI give us the chance to explore different kinds of materiality that maybe are not existing yet, or if they exist, maybe they are difficult to build. So it's also a way to create some references for inspiration, and maybe to set the horizon a bit further to get somewhere. So this one of the laminated, like with colors, atmospheric creation, turn into space, and also textures and introduction of kind of grain and nice movements. This is an exploration I did with some students on like proto architectures. The idea was to create variations of simple structures made part of the ground, and then integrating some animals and people. So this is like the 3 options that we got, like with like hundreds of them. So we started selecting some of them, and the nice thing is that you can create many variations and start selecting some that could be interesting to develop. Working with tectonics, as again, working with Midjourney 5 is very realistic, but here I was exploring like the Boolean operations, the strength of those, the transformation of spaces, and the power of working with some tectonic concepts like the weight, the heaviness, the roughness. It was actually coming kind of very well. As well, integrating landscape and concept of like parks that could be more 3-dimensional and woven with the city. Or ideas like, okay, how about we build around nature we don't touch? So it's kind of concept that you can try to consolidate into images thanks to AI. This series was actually using some techniques of outpainting. So now outpainting, we can actually grow from an image outwards, so we can create what happens around. So this is from one image, was creating the context from maybe one cell, creating what happens around the cell. I was creating these landscapes that had this stepped geometry, and could be quite speculative as also topographies, right? And then also ideas of like stream sleeping. So also Midjourney, you have seen a lot of like creations that are trying to take it to sometimes to I don't know, to something that is not real, but is too far from what we want. But I try to find a sweet spot in which could be provocative. Could be like, okay, how about we try to use kind of a bed in this kind of location? It provokes something, right? It's not that it's going to happen like this, but it's try to test ideas. And Midjourney was working really well for that. So this is Midjourney 6. So this is the latest version, the one that we have. And now we're looking at a very high grade of definition. We have control with the prompts, with the words. We can almost they can always capture every single thing we say, and it will be there in the image. Now it's super sensitive, so we can almost make everything. But we need a lot of iterations to get there, but we can almost make everything. Here, this prompt actually was like one of the shortest I've made. I would say 10 words. It came like this. Sometimes you just get it, like in 10 words, they just land and then work. Sometimes you need to, work around it and then try to go back and forth. There are different ways to do it. But what this image conveys is almost, I would say, impossible to achieve with a rendering. I mean, the magic, the atmosphere, working with a rendering, you don't get this. So that's the power as well of communication. You're able to transmit this to a person that connects way more than when you do a photo montage or a rendering or your own drawing. It's a powerful way for communication. This is like interior spaces that I'm working right now. And then with Midjourney 6, I just went deeper on the cultural roots and try to bring some roughness, something more basic and fundamental. I think AI people that are working with AI, you can see they're moving into this always like very smooth and sleek, and that had it look all the time. And at some point you get a bit tired of the same aesthetics because the model is trained with most of those images. And I wanted to go back to the roots. So this series I'm doing right now are more going to very basic places like Africa, like they work with primary geometries, and I challenged use of colors and creates like topographies and places where kids could run. And through this series, I'm getting like in touch with many people in Africa that they want actually to make it happen. And not just there, other parts of the world. They want to really bring this joy that sparks these images, right? Typically, the image connects to the people that they want to make it happen. Other like very high resolution and very realistic approaches like landscapes where we can integrate some developments in a more speculative way as well here. You can see the contrast, you know, the image here, the light is just perfect. You know, comes really on point. So you can craft very well those experiences, and the realism that you get is now almost indistinguishable from a picture, from a photograph. This is another series in Kenya, and here working with the pattern of the circles. This is called Circles of Life. So the idea was to work with simple geometries that could be buildable, and I think that's something that attracts many people right now in AI. You're able to craft and to prompt something that is really buildable. You get actually the interest from many people. It's like, well, it's AI that can be built, and that's something that is not easy actually. And these are interiors for a villa in Formentera in Spain. Studies of like the texture, the ripple. So for interior design, all these textures, all these nuances are very well captured. You know, the lights, the ratio with space, how it flows. So these are two variations of the same image. And this is a concept for a school. So that's the project I'm working right now, trying to make partly happen, but some people say, well, you have these images, right? You don't have a project. You have just images. I mean, I think that the mindset that I have when I make this is I'm creating a project in my mind. I'm creating a project maybe sightless. I have some conditions. If I'm asked to implement this idea into a place, I have the resources. I mean, I have the training in architecture, in design, so I know how to convert this into documents that can be used to be built. That's why AI, I mean, at this point, you cannot just prompt and just make the building or make the space. You still need your own skills to be able to transfer this into our world, right? Into the way that industry works. So images are very powerful because you can actually start rationalizing the geometry, drawing it nicely, create 3D models, and then just try to get there. So it feels like it's a different direction we can follow now. Typically, we work with diagrams with a very abstract approach at the beginning, and then we build up. And this is more top-down. We create kind of the end. We want to get there, and then we try to rationalize the geometry and to try to build it from below to get there, right? It's a different approach. So these also are videos created with AI. So not just the sequence of images, but also the atmosphere, the way that the space could be used. And it really touched people, like really land into people's heart. So I'm creating this series about, you know, how we can integrate nature into spaces that are, you know, educational spaces, working with very little resources. In the end, it's just color, it's just, you know, paint, but it makes a huge difference when it comes to the design of those spaces. So the second part of the presentation is taking control. So it's like, well, with Midjourney, somehow we feel like we are losing control a bit. We're just, okay, we just say something and then we get something back. We continue the conversation, but we don't have 100% control, right? We are like yeah, sometimes 20%, sometimes 10%, sometimes 50%. But we need to live with that. I find comfortable with this lack of control now. But also, if we have a tool or we have another model or system that allows us to take control back, that would be good, right? So we can actually decide when we need to let it go and when we need to take it back. So we saw Midjourney. Now we're looking at stable diffusion. So Stability AI has been working on open source models, which is really good because you can download all the platform in your computer and you can prompt without sending it online. So it's private, it's your thing. You can do anything with that. And there's an interface to it. So that's, okay, it becomes a tool, kind of like thing, but still what the tool does is not like a normal tool. It's still like an intelligence behind. So this is Stable Diffusion, the interface called 1111. So, well, it's just a web interface. You just log in your own laptop or powerful computer, and then you can select the model. The model is the number of the many images that have been trained in a model. It's actually very big size, about 2 gigabytes, 5 gigabytes. It's really big. And then you use different models for different purposes. And then you have your prompt. It's a positive prompt. You're going to prompt what you want to make. Also, you're going to prompt what you don't want to make as well here. It's like, I don't want non-textured materials. I don't want sun. I don't want, so you can try to prompt negatively, which is good because you try to, when you get something you don't like, you try to discard it. It's a prompt against something. So that gives you more power. Then we have different levels here. The CFG scale is how crazy the image will get, or how, let's say, I would say not conventional, but predictable could be. So the lower, the more predictable. And then this is kind of the same prompt. Small diagram basically says that when you say something, let's say a face, and you use CFG, like low CFG, which is the value, it will try to target for the clusters that has been trained a face as a face. But maybe when you increase the value, if it's not a face, but somehow close to that word, it still get it. So it's like it opens, it widens the meaning of your prompt. So you can get something very unexpected and sometimes not very nice. So I just, well, stay away from the extremes, something like 7, this recommendation for this particular tool. So again, noise. We are working with noise, and the noise have a random seed. The seed is the number that we need to keep. If we use the same seed for the noise, we will create the same image again, which is interesting. So if the noise looks the same and we use the same parameters, we can make the same image, which is good, because then if we log everything and we just change one word of the prompt, we can learn the impact of that word in the outcome. So we make everything the same, but we change one word, and then we learn. We learn how AI will take that change. So, well, the process that we talk about, I mean, basically the random scene determines the way that, that the image will be created. And then one of the things that we try also to do with AI is to avoid a generic result. Typically, all these models are leading to a very average and generic architecture or spaces or shapes. So in here, there's a method which is called ControlNet. So basically, the prompt that I use here is a museum with a polygonal roof, strong direct lights. Even typos are fine. It will actually go well. And then the ControlNet weight is 0. So it's no use of ControlNet yet. So I'll show you what is the ControlNet about in a graphical way. So we're going to increase the weight of ControlNet to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So you can see that the shape of the roof starts to get a bit more defined. It's less generic, a bit more characteristic of a certain kind of geometry. 0.4, 0.5. And from here onwards, you're going to see how things remain kind of the same, more refined, until we get to 1. So what happened here? It's something behind the scenes that we don't know, or I haven't told you yet. But it's not just only the prompt. So we have the prompt, but also we have a 3D model. So this is a very, super fast 3D model using just a few surfaces. Could be Rhino, could be SketchUp. And that is an information that we can give also to AI with the words, with the prompt. And depends on the weight, it will take it into account, like fully following the geometry as 1.0, or just slightly guiding the geometry. So you still can be an in-between space. You can lose control a little bit if you need. You can work around and explore ideas from a certain point you want to arrive. So it allows you exploration, but also allows you control if you need. So it's done, in this case, using a Z depth map. That's very easy to obtain with any of the 3D models that we have. In Rhino as a direct command, in SketchUp as well, you can get this information. And with this combined, then we can get variations of the space in no time. So it's a good way to study, so to analyze that space from different perspectives, different light conditions, different materials, and it helps like visualize different moments, and maybe to develop a certain understanding of the potential of the space. And then we create our own workflows, right? So to say, we like this image for some reason, and then we just feed it back into the system, and then we can change maybe the prompt. Let's say now we can use warm lights, or maybe we can now use like pouring rain, or we can just go for like wooden walls and red lights. And then if we want to continue with this one, we can actually change the seed and then explore around that image. So it's a journey. It's not like you have one image, one go, and then it's done. Actually, with one image, you start the journey and you start navigating with the different tools that you have to control, with your words, your prompts, and with your images. So then I tried different things. So one was, okay, let's revisit one of my designs that I built like a few years ago in Spain. This is a house that was built in Madrid by my firm, Subarquitectura in Spain, in Madrid. So this is built design, but also, this is how it looks. It's the 360-degree house, and I have the 3D model. No, I made it, so I have 3D model. So I'm gonna use a 3D model to see if I can create images from that built piece and see how it looks. So I place the point of view exactly as the photo that you have seen before, and I prompt. And it's like, well, let's make it like snow. So cover in snow, or low budget, or with a green roof, so that happens in seconds. So when you're thinking about the materials, when you're thinking about options, that helps a lot because you can visualize them. And that allows you maybe to even explore around other visions that you maybe don't have the ability to create. And that helps widening your options. And then modifying parameters you can actually fine-tune or create the same image from a different point of view, keeping consistency. So you keep the same seed, you can have similar results, like out of wood or covered in snow again. So it helps test the idea. You have a 3D model from different points of view and different moments or different light conditions to widen your palette. And also, if you actually lower the weight of control net, you can start creating options that could be related to the original design. So potential opportunities for the roof to continue, the courtyard, the windows. So you start getting also something from your design that could deviate into something that you can maybe capture for further iterations or for the current one you're doing. This is an expression I did last year with some of my students. Is like sometimes we work with geometry and we don't have a program assigned. We don't have a function. So it's like more like generic space and the function can be found. So the idea was to create a model and then prompt. So with the Z map again and people to convey the scale of the space. The idea was to turn it into, let's say, train station or airport, so how the color changes the materiality, or maybe turn it into a park, a canopy for a park, or maybe using bricks. So all these things were like just with a simple 3D model and prompts. Then the function maybe comes later, so you can actually work sometimes we don't have like all the answers at the beginning of a design brief, so maybe the function is something we can actually use with prompts, and the geometry somehow is given by us. This is a interesting approach using the AI models, which is called segmentation. Segmentation is basically the ability that AI has to recognize things in the images that we provide. So to say, AI, when you feed AI with this image on the left, building by Barozzi Veiga in Switzerland, AI can tell if it's a building, if it's a tree, if it's a road, if it's a sidewalk, elements, and then assigns a color to each of the images. So that helps when you're prompting, you say a tree with red fruits. It knows that the prompt will go to the tree. So it is basically trying to prompt where you want to prompt. So this was an exploration on context-driven design. So if the context changed, how would be the building about? So that's the exploration here. you can see the context on the sides is different, then the facade and somehow the aesthetics of the building adapts to it, working with segmentation models. So many of the elements remain, the planes, the frames, but in a different way, right? So that's from a real picture. So it's like we can take pictures of existing buildings, we can change the context, and then we can create different versions to adapt to a certain materiality that surrounds us. So that's opened a really interesting research line for me, which is working with semantic information, with the meaning of the words, but also placed in the picture. So this is a design that that I made and I published, like, I think 6 months ago, and the particular thing about this one is basically reusing certain like infrastructural elements in concrete to make a villa, but the way that it's done is quite surprising. It's actually done. You can actually see different points of view and iterations that I did, integrating like different like materials or glass layers. But for me, the interesting thing is actually it was done with the image on the right. So to create such a complex image, I only had to do what you see on the right. So basically, I'm using segmentation to tell AI that this is the grass, this is the water, the concrete walls are in U shape, and the glass is in this gray color, that the gray in a particular color, RGB color, is red as glass. So when I combine this with the prompt, I can create a spatial experience that goes exactly where I want. So this is the 3D, well, the result that I get. You can actually zoom in, get moments, close to the water, how it really touches the water, how it creates spaces, and variations of that. And also even you can in paint and start working with certain materiality. Here was like more cushiony, like, just exploring certain treatment of the concrete. So those things can be done locally applied as well using masks and prompts. So in the end, the way that it was done was just I did that in 2D, I extruded, and instead of using the normal rendering engine and the colors that we use, I used the segmentation colors for my 3D model. So I put, self-illumination to 100%. I used exactly that color, and in real time, I was able to see the AI model from my super simple 3D model. So for me, develop a line in which I always ask the same question: how much do we need to produce, or when do we need to stop and let AI do its magic and then take it back? Because maybe we don't need to 3D model everything. We just need to model something that for us is really the essence of the project, and then we pass it to AI in a certain way, and then we get it back. All right? So that's the mindset here, right? So for me, it's a game changer, because we're not replacing, we're actually using our expertise. This 360-degree video. On the right, you can see the making of. We're combining a layer behind the scenes of segmentation. Also, I'm combining behind the scenes a layer of depth. When I combine the 3 layers, we get this effect. And then we can create variations as well in very little time. So again, super simple 2D drawings or 3D models can create this. Context integration, materiality, on the brutalistic side. So then the next question was like, well, we have the color for each of the words that AI can recognize. So can I use Excel to design? So I use Excel with a grid on the right-hand side. So every cell is a color. So I wanted to create like 5 skyscrapers with colors. So, well, it turned out like this. But you can experiment with simple concepts like just square geometries, and then it tells where the grass goes, where the ground is, the planters, the balconies, with certain level of control. Of course, it's an Excel sheet. And then we can develop it further. I mean, this was like a bit more crazy. I was doing some, upscaling, and then got some, under construction, not super clean. There's different contexts. But you can actually evolve from here, and in the bottom right, to here in the span of just a few minutes. So that's the speed we can actually work, and that's the control that we can actually get. So we have that table, right? So we know it's public. And then we know that if we use R61, green 230, and blue 250 is water, and then it will be recognized by ControlNet. Then I did 3D model. 3D modeling takes some time. How about I open Photoshop? I just do it in 2D, right? I mean, just quickly, just create something quick, sketching. So then I get this. So from that drawing you have seen just a while ago in Photoshop, we start creating a three-dimensional structure where side nesting is at least proposed. There's one option of many more, but we have one here presented. The light, the prompt is actually creating the atmosphere here. And then we can integrate different layers of ControlNet. So the next one is to draw lines. So I sketch directly lines that I want them to be the seam of the geometry, and then those lines are translated somehow to the geometry of the design. So there are ways to say more, or to try to get more control, or to go deeper in the process of making. So as you can see here, is a lot of human touch. It starts with a process which is in Photoshop with your own intuition, and then AI does what AI does very well, which is connect the dots and take it to the next level, right? So they created this realistic image. So change of materiality and context, like here, prompting like in Costa Rica context, or more in the Aztec like area with the clay materiality, going back to concrete, reflective. So all our variations using prompts and varying the parameters. Even could be like small model made of paper as well. So it does depend on what you say, right? So I am developing a certain toolkit to do that, and to create a certain like interface where we can actually play with that. So that is coded in processing. Processing is a language that was created in MIT. And if you have tried, I think you won't try something else. It's just so nice. It's like a joy working with processing. It's very real time, and you can get results like almost on spot. So what I did is to create an interface that can transfer that image directly to ControlNet, and real time see, instead of seeing this, we can see an actual piece of architecture. So then we can create all the options and variations that we decide, because we can drag, we can change sizes, we can we can try to find compositions that maybe are good for us in the facade. So we can try all these options, right? And then you can take it to a certain contextual level. You can develop this using upscaling. When I say upscaling, means that we're blowing up the size of the image, and then we add more detail. So AI will add more details. You can see here there's many, elements here in the floor, the ground, this door. So all are added with AI. Based on the aesthetics and your prompt, even the person. And this is the series I'm working on right now, which is like trying to work with this idea of the changing possibilities in architecture, and turn it into a document that could encapsulate all the options in maybe less than a minute at 30 or 60 frames per second. Select certain options and tries to get in, and then changes. So as you can see, the same topology that rearranges and changes the context. So this series was inspired by the Tokyo landscape, using concrete as a fluid material, and but also I explored, others that could try to keep consistency. So this was like the experiment with the openings of a kind of piece of architecture, that the openings are determining the shape of the building, and the idea was to test, what happens when you condense, you create a vertical structure. You can do animations. So you can create the whole narrative using AI, and this is just done yesterday. Just producing more villas. I'm working on that, and you can see the level of realism that you can get. You know, just from just few squares and just shades, you're starting to create stories. You're starting to create spaces. You know, these moments. You can actually, with the position of the rectangle, you can decide if it's gonna be flush, if it's gonna be, you know, you have a certain frame there. It's very sensitive. You can actually develop a certain toolkit to create details in architecture in a very low resolution, just using color. So this is the series, like working with variations, exploring. So that's the kind of sketches I'm doing right now. So I'm changing the way I draw. I mean, I didn't do these drawings like maybe a few months ago. And now this is a new kind of sketch that I'm using, I'm getting used to. And now I introduce that way of designing in my repertoire of options. It's not that I design only using this. There will always be criticism. As, okay, you're objectualizing architecture, you're looking at this as a piece. But I mean, we know when it's relevant maybe to do these kind of studies and when we need to shift to something else, right? To 3D models or to sketching. So it's not that we are choosing one way, it's we adding one more or many more to our thinking. So hybrid Midjourney and stable diffusion workflows. For instance, I created this one in Midjourney 4 some years ago. So then we can actually use stable diffusion control net canny, which is analyzing the contours and the lines. So we can change the lights very quickly. Like, okay, night image, done. That's like something we can do very quickly. Or change the point of view. We can create a rough 3D model from the image and then create variations of the points of view. So we can, from just one image, we can get so much information, we can actually turn into a different point of view and explore different materiality for it. Series like the Philip Schroeder, how, you know, he did that with Photoshop. Now with AI, you can create the many variations of his drawings. And then this is a fun one, working with the sketches from, you know, Sejima, from Sana. That, well, she had stable diffusion when she was sketching. How would have been? And this, when I did that, was at the beginning. I actually prompted using a relatively abstract approach, but you can see a translation, interpretation of your lines into some architecture, space, park, openness, and you can see more of that. So. So this line here now is taken as a roof, like the ceiling, but it could be something else. Right? It could be kind of just a layer of the ground, or could be a table. Depends on what you say, right? So that's also the interpretation of the sketches, and what we do is we're actually constantly doing that when we design. We draw a line, and that line, we have a meaning for that line when we're doing it, right? So it's the interpretation of geometry. So, well, we're learning hand sketching as well. As you have seen these things all around, but it's just to show you that it's super, super possible to do that with a sketch, start creating a certain framework for a building, and to further develop geometry and details by, you know, further iteration of the prompts. But what I wanted to point here is that we have levers, we have something we can control. So if we create an array of the possibilities with different parameters, we can start choosing where we want to go. Do you want to lean to this kind of more crazy approach? You want to go for more this Sydney Opera approach? So you can also somehow navigate that kind of randomness. So it's not so random in the end. And trying concepts like this one, working with a section drawing of a concept, let's say a structure in a cliff, from here to the one on the right-hand side to a bit more developed one. Again, a few minutes of prompting back and forth, but then that sketch, that could be maybe something in your mind, I want to do something, and then you can create an image that maybe makes it more solid, more visible, and then helps you get there maybe earlier. Or even simple, this is from a workshop I did like some time ago, working with simple sketches that are not even perfect, and how to turn that into a more like a perfect design, or absorb the imperfections like the ones below. I'm trying to also to try to turn that sketch exactly into that particular shape of the shoe, and then prompt different materiality, and from here extract a 3D model, the real time. You can actually create a 360-degree model from your prompt, and you can try to prototype from there. Okay, this is fun. This is I mean, I spent many years of my life as a student and also practicing, like doing photo montage in architecture. It's like, okay, I need to take an image from somewhere, put it somewhere, and try to make it look good. So this was like, can I make a 3-story like bus, like in a photo montage way? So this is purposely done in a very bad way. There's not even converging the vantage point. It's really off. But with AI, we can run iterations. So when we denoise and we make noise again, we're starting smoothing it out. So the one on the right-hand side is not there yet, but we can get going. We can get going. We can get going. And then we can get it. Like in the end, we have the 3-story shape of the bus in the same position. We changed a bit of the aesthetics because I was open to it, but everything now makes more sense. And then we can create context as well. So also you can create a very simple collage with your ideas. Let's put them there. Maybe you don't need to work much. So then we just focus on the concept. So our mind is more at the conceptual level, what you want to do. And then with AI, you can smooth it out and make sense of the image, right? So we save time that maybe we spent before, and now we can focus on our concepts. So so then, yeah, so different ways of sketching, I would say. You can start with an image, a reference of like a natural phenomenon, and then you can try to turn into space, no, with the same properties of this kind of slope and a void inside. So from here to there is AI, or the fluidity. These are like studies on how to navigate also the prompt making. So here's like how the words can actually help develop from river delta, a certain aesthetics that could be more fluid and could create certain designs that flows and weaves, maybe a highway. And then, your own drawings that you have made, they can be turned as well into a more immersive documents. So you can actually prompt with your lines, with your drawings, and you can actually get close and see the atmosphere of that drawing that you made, or change the style fully into, let's say, more Japanese. I'm getting close to the last part. Here's like the new models, the SDXL models are powered with this new interface that maybe, I don't know if like some rejection to it, but also it's like possibilities. It creates really interesting workflows. And you can maybe change the materiality of the buildings with a very high level of realism. So maybe you could recognize some of them, the Zaha Hadid, the one in London, the cathedral made in bamboo, or the Sydney Opera as well. But the interesting thing here is that, or Rolex Center and Tate in London, right? 1111, Rem Koolhaas on the right-hand side, Colosseum. So what you prompt is not just the material gets replaced. I mean, it's the whole infrastructure. You can see people building the Colosseum out of bamboo, and what you see there is like the bamboo preparation. I mean, it's not anymore just a change of texture. It's the change of the whole thing. And now we're keeping the lines, but there's a certain rationale of the bamboo construction that is conveyed here. So that's the level. I mean, that's why, for me, this is way far from what I understood it was a tool. And it really falls into the intelligence side. We are Kingers on the left, Dieter Escoffidy on the right, Sagrada Familia out of bamboo. So people like it better. And then furniture, changed different materiality. I took here with the students last year, selected designs, and then we changed the materiality. So the Eames chair, Panton, the Burulek. You can see that you can recognize, but it's a change of materiality, keeping the same geometry. And then this is a real-time communication with AI, which is fascinating. So with voice recognition in the left, I'm just saying words, and the words are changing the image. So
black leather, orange leather, reflection and texture.
On the right-hand side is basically from a space that was destroyed, turned into a built space with words. So you can refurbish a place, and the left is changing materiality. So real-time, you can see the words changing on top and in the bottom. This is the prompt, and the prompt real-time, you see the results. This is what we are right now with real-time prompting.
Muslim Alhambra, Granada.
So the last part, just fun, which is, I don't know how was the time going. Okay, so the last part is more like the fun side of it, which is, Instagram and expansive waves that I'm experiencing right now. And yeah, I mean, it's been like quite crazy. I mean, I got to this kind of like number of followers in just a year. Before I was like less than 10K, and I was like suddenly got like this. But I mean, besides the number, but the number is good to have, right? But it's also the reach. I mean, in these social networks, what really matters is like you're saying something and people are seeing that, right? That's the thing. Typically, when we publish in academia, you publish a paper, it's going to be read by some people. But when you publish something here, you can get 50 million people, like over a month, looking at what you do. So the impact of what you post is becoming something important. So for me, it was like, wow, I got a sense of the dimension that this is getting, because it lands in people, get feedback, and that was quite amazing. And then I found that now I'm put my name in Google is internet personality. I was architect before, so Instagram put me in that category. It was like, what is this about? I never did anything related to that, but it really creates a whole new perspective. Like, now you're doing this Instagram posts almost daily, requires commitment, but also it's a lot of commitment, I would say. But also keeps you updated. You need to experiment with different formats, like introducing music, introducing like videos. So I need to be fully up to date every day. And for me, working with AI is about that, because it's changing and evolving so fast that if you just lack off for a month, you are really too old for AI. So that's the speed in which we are going. So then DM, it happened that collaborations happen through Instagram. That for me never happened. Always happen face to face, or they get to know your office. But it's like a DM, and someone you get a text in your inbox, and then collaboration with artists like Opaque in UK. I didn't know about him, but then Google him. Oh, this guy is doing some interesting things, and then the collaboration like this. I mean, just text you, Carlos, I like your work. It happens very, very organically, and then the ideas for him to work with this series, like it's an exhibition he was doing for a gallery in Beijing. So hopefully it works well. And then all these things were published, like the designers working with AI, and then the staircases were like everywhere, and then people that wanted to make them from UK. So get really interest and traction to really make it happen. So the reach was like close to 40 million people. So for me, it was like really, I was totally mind blown by that. It's like I never see, like my work could have that impact. That image in particular has been like, maybe, many people I know here, they saw the image somehow. I didn't know that it's mine. So this is series of staircases created with AI. This is like more in the interior side, blending like fun and bedroom, another kind of like 17. That was part, they covered Vogue, living in Netherlands, and Maison Creative. So actually, they're actually giving more and more space to AI-generated images when it tackles a certain concept that maybe is aligned with the editorial line. And this was recently in Malta. So, and then you create unexpected products, maybe make or not much sense, but there was created these products here, the backpacks, the furniture. And this one in particular got the attention from a company that is developing prototypes for this kind of Renaissance mouse. This was actually like out of like my expectations. Like it got really, really wide, and now we are working on the prototype inside. Then there was the Stone Age mouse, like variations of that, working with primary shapes and simple technology. So it really, to create concepts, it really works. I mean, you can create very absurd concepts as well, but also you have some fun as well and joy. And I would say that it is quite addictive. No, these are Blossom chairs, and I focus on the making of the chairs and the potential variations of them, the different materials for the chairs, and a simple prototype done in the lab with 3D printing, so just simple ones. And also proving that, from the image, you can create a 3D model directly now with the tools that we have. So it's a good way to start prototyping. You have your image, you start getting the 3D model, you need to develop it a lot, but you have something to start from. Different options, variations. And then here I was working with the AIA Institute of Architects in the US. They wanted to do the first cover of the Architect magazine using AI. So it was like a cover. They gave me a brief. And the fun thing of this one is like they contact me on a Friday, and the magazine needs to be actually ready on a Tuesday. So the weekend, and then Monday, and then deliver. So if I don't have AI, are you joking? I mean, it's not possible to make a cover in 3 days. I mean, with the level of resolution that you ask, it's a high resolution picture. But with AI, it was like one day they had 30 iterations. The following day they had another 30, and the last day we narrowed to 2. And then it was super fast and fun process, where we explore different options of nature. We discuss, we choose the ones that we were actually more attracted to, and then we selected. And then now I'm also focusing as well on training some companies, like in this case was Logitech that contacted me. It's like, we want you to train our team to use AI. I'm not a product designer, or I haven't designed mice, I think. Well, that one, the Renaissance mouse. That's why they contacted me, because they saw the mouse. And so what I did with them is a workshop where they learn some of the things I showed here, the control, the conceptualization. So taking one design and develop it in a different way. So from that one, turn it into a bracelet, for instance, exploring kind of potential 3D models from that, changing details and aesthetics of the potential, like a keyboards, color variations, or even more daring concepts with soft materiality and translucency. So these actually were images done during the workshop by them. So they were really happy with the outcome. They say, well, there are many of projects are almost ready to start with the production. So maybe in the coming months, maybe we'll see something like on that line. I don't know. But these were images created by them during the workshop, exploring ideas from the sketches, and it's quite product ready, some of them. So yeah, the training has been like quite important for me. The taking control in 3 editions has been May, July, and November, and then there's a new one coming in June. This is through Parametric Architectures. It's a platform. It's an online platform, so it's flexible for me, and it's 2 days intensive weekends. So we work with about 50 to 90 students. And now I'm also in Daily doing this kind of Villa series, which is like very fun, but also it's a drive for me to push research and creation, constant creation. This is like it's a stream in which you are. And then, I don't know, I said that in an interview, but when I found the quote, I was happy about it. And to conclude, basically, it's like I said, I think I subscribe that phrase. Like, we're not just following the old rules anymore. We're making new ones, and I think we are actually changing the way that we're going to design in the coming years. We still need to have deep foundations on the fundamentals of design. We need our human touch. We need our wisdom, our selection, our curation. To control that. But it's definitely a game changer, and now we are, remember the first slide, 1982, at the beginning of computational years. Now we are at that 1992 in AI. This is the beginning. We have just a few elements to play, and the trend is super fast. So we are just seeing the beginning of that. It's perhaps the most significant paradigm shift in human history. I think, not to end up, I mean, this is maybe not so positive. AI, well, is basically the production with one person with the computer with AI could be 5 times estimated, but also means that maybe 4 people out of 5 will need to do something else. But I'm more optimistic about that than this slide shows, right? I mean, for me, it's the manifesto I did like some months ago, but it's basically, I think AI is a catalyst for collective growth. I think AI really can be that instrumental tool to really get to collaborate. I think we're going to find a complete new domain. So it's not like we're going to do the same thing again with AI. We're going to create a complete new space. So new roles, new jobs. It will be a complete different role as a designer. Now I'm getting a lot of requests to design with prompts from industry. So it's a new role coming up. I will be even stronger in the coming months. And then for me, I think it can lead to innovation. I mean, for me, AI is a powerful tool that working together, we can create innovative designs. And that's for me very, very inspiring, because innovation will drive new spaces, and I think we will jump in those new spaces as well. So that was, it changed a bit now. The version is now updated to 2024, me and ChatGPT working in this manifesto. And I think, hope that ends in a positive note. I think I'm very optimistic. Things are gonna change, but we need to embrace that change if we want to be relevant in the coming months. And to finish, I just gonna show the kind of this last video, which shows, encapsulates a bit of like what I think that AI can do, is giving us like that extra vision, the extra power, but with our lines, with our design, with our sketches. So this is kind of the last video I'm gonna show you today. So a line could be anything, but if we say it's a path, we can create a path. So these two lines could be also anything, but we're gonna say it's a system. That create maybe volume or articulation or segregation. So the same lines could be seen differently, depends on how we, in this case, use AI. Wrapping spaces, or maybe merging them, so the lines become just subtle changes of flooring. Weaving the spaces, this complex. And that's all. Well, thank you.
Oh. Thank you so much, Carlos. That was really mind-blowing for me. We guys, so it's Q&A time. Think about the questions you want to ask, because we will let our guest students from Shantung ask the questions first, because they already sent quite a number of questions. I'm going to invite Alicia to help me translate the questions. Come.
Hello, Mr. Banon. So I will. So the first question is about, what do you think is the envisioned future of AI in design?
The upcoming future of AI in design? I think, well, there are different different lines I think I could talk about, but I mean, AI is gonna definitely be part of our lives in design. I mean, it is now, but it's not fully mainstream yet. Some people are still like, I don't know what to do with AI, it's fun, but it's gonna become our normal way of designing, for sure. It's just a matter of like months or maybe a few years. So I think the role is gonna be helping us at the beginning with, I know, creating options, be faster creation, opening up different possibilities. But basically, it's going to be a way that we can get maybe to a whole new space and in design even faster and improving the quality. For me, AI is driving us a bit higher as designers, so we need to step up a little bit higher. We have someone now that intelligence is going to be there with us, and we need to be able to somehow supervise results, coordinate results, and be able to be the ones still leading this, right? So it requires deep knowledge, but also a higher position. So it's like we are promoted somehow. In that sense, maybe it's an analogy to it, yeah.
Thank you. 那么我用比较中国化的这种方式来向大家表达一下，就是班诺先生认为 AI 它是到现在为止，它已经是基本上已经完全融入了我们的日常生活中。它不仅仅是它的未来的愿景不是一个技术的问题，更多的是一个时间的问题，是从月到年的一个跨越，慢慢的融入到我们每天的生活中。那么在我们现在的科技如此的发达，我们已经有了这么多的前人给我们留下了这么多好宝贵的基础和经验。那么我们的未来就是在这些基础和经验上去创造更多，去发现 AI 更多的可以融入我们生活和设计中的可能性和价值。就是总的来说，就是 find the more possibility, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Then the second question. So for AI uses algorithms. AI uses algorithms and some past examples to create the designs. So will this lead to all the designs looking the same in the future?
I mean, that's a very, very good question. And well, we can see that there's a certain mid-journey style. When you see the prompts that come from many people in your feed, you're still like, oh, it's the same again, it's the same again. It does converge. It does converge to kind of this middle ground, this average design. So yes, to the question is like, that's a possibility if we are not also taking action. I mean, that's why the presentation was like, it's not just we use what we have produced before, but also we create new things. So I think our input is key. And also depends on how we train the models as well. I mean, the models have biases. So we are using a lot of certain like images of a certain kind. Those will be the ones that will appear in the results. So that's also a potential problem that we will have in terms of potential diversity or ethics that we will need to address. But the bias of the models is something very important. But if we only use the models, sure, it will go to that point. If we combine with our inputs, with our drawing, with our physical documents that we combine, then we can change that.
Okay, thank you. 那么我觉得 Banon 先生的意思就是，确实，我们通过一些AI 的软件，像 Mid Journey 啊，还有很多像是现在我们在用 GPT 这样的软件，它确实当你给到一条线条的时候，它可能会给你一些很相似的一些应用和方式，但其实我觉得这些案例其实在这么多年的那些艺术家的创造中都是存在的，都是可以找到那些相似的点。那么其实最重要的就是他说的 input， 你是怎么去输出的，你是怎么去把你自己的想法结合到这样的 AI 的设计之中，这是很重要的。我觉得作为设计师啊，Banon 先生也说，作为设计师，我们从学习开始到后来会看到很多的案例，包括我们给给 AI 啊一些线条或者什么，他们会给我们很多的 example， 他们都是相似的。重点的是你怎么去结合你自己的思想，这就是最重要的一点。Okay, thank you. Then the last question. So the current AI is a tool for achieving the effects. So are there any successful construction projects that have applied AI, and what's the entire process like from design to completion?
Okay, nice question as well. I mean, there's experiences of spaces, mostly small objects, I would say, created with AI. I mean, you check the work from Tim Fu when he was kind of one of the first to make this, piece of column from AI. The process was not fully AI. The process was like we create the images, we rationalize with maybe guessing the 3D model, then we manually do it in our 3D modeler, and then we fabricate it maybe with machines, like a CNC routing or 3D printing. When it comes to, say, spaces and architecture, that is a bit more complex, and then that requires many more steps. So, for instance, now I'm right in the middle of designing a kind of a interior for a restaurant in Miami. We're trying to use fully AI all the time throughout the process, but definitely there's moments in which you need to switch back and draw and modify things the way that we typically do without AI, and then we push it back to AI. So the process is still very hybrid. It's not fully AI driven. And then on that line, typically if we work with AI, we create almost the end result at the beginning. We create the how it looks. So our mission now is basically not to create the concept anymore, is to make the concept real. So we need to break it down into geometries that are buildable, the materials, the structure. So we need to provide that scaffolding for that image, which is a completely different approach to what we usually do.
Okay, thank you. 对于这个问题，Banon 先生他是这么解释的，他说，它的过程啊，其实不仅仅是用到 AI 了，在这个过程中，其实用到了很多别的技术，像是3D 打印啊和一些自己的手画。其实我们在刚刚的我们演讲过程中看到，其实所有的那些设计出来的东西，基于的都是 Banon 先生他自己的创意和他的手画，他是借鉴了 AI 的一些东西，但是最后是他自己控制这个成果。他讲到了自己在设计的一个案例啊，就是在迈阿密的一个 is a restaurant right 一个餐厅，对，所以他其实总的过程来说，他的目标是把他自己的一个设计的灵感可以通过 AI 去进行一个实现，对。那么他控制的是这个成果，所以说如果这位同学很好奇这个项目的话，是在迈阿密的一个Banon先生自己设计的一个餐厅，我觉得可以关注Banon先生的 Instagram， 可以获取更多的实时的信息。Okay, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alicia. Okay, so now for our LaSalle students, do you have any burning questions? Yes.
I guess as with everything, there's always like pros and cons, right? So like, what are your views towards the possibility of AI actually replacing us humans?
I mean, it's a strong possibility. I mean, and when you see what things that AI can do, and we also know that it's just the beginning. It can be scary, right? It's like it's going to be faster. It's going to be smarter. I still keep, an optimistic approach to it, and I think that we are in that moment in which it will force almost everyone to change, the way that we do things. I mean, it's going to happen. The pressure is going to gradually happen because now AI. I mean, the power is there, but not everyone is still like using it. But it's going to start to be more mainstream. So I think we will need to relearn certain things. We will need to adjust. So I think that I'm optimistic about the people that are willing to take the change. So I think when you're studying, you're still in an early stage, which is you're very dynamic. You can actually learn new things very quickly. But maybe people that have more consolidated like practices, and they say, no, AI is not for me. I'm going to stay away from that. At some point, maybe the tide will be there. That's my impression. Maybe it will remain, but will remain even less mainstream. Maybe still have the space. But I think definitely the power and the pressure that we have is forcing a transformation. So just the only thing, that maybe advice for that, I don't know, is like more like try to get yourself exposed to what is going around AI and try to learn somehow how it works, because when it really gets in, you might be better prepared for that. But we might be ready to change our roles. I mean, maybe already I changed my roles. I mean, I don't spend any more time doing this drawing that I used to do. Like it's really, 3 hours drawing so nice. I enjoy it so much. I don't do it anymore. I just done. So I've even coding. Some of the scripts I show here in processing. Even the pavilion, actually, the 3D printed pavilion, right? So I made a new version for COP28. Half of the code was done by ChatGPT. I was trying to solve something, and I was like, I will spend 3 days here solving that code. So over dinner, I was just texting ChatGPT the description of what I want to get. It really fully got the three-dimensionality of the script, and it gave me a perfect answer. So I saved 3 days of my work, which means maybe I'm putting my time somewhere else. So, I mean, that will be occupied to do other tasks. I don't know if there will be space for everyone, but definitely it's a huge transformation that I'm experiencing at a small scale now, but that will impact. So you need to be ready for that. We will definitely spend our time differently to do other tasks.
Any more questions? Okay, good.
Okay, I just want to ask your opinion. So I feel like our cohort is like in the fine line between traditional and like we're dipping into like the futuristic approaches of like using AI as an aid. So with that, it can potentially affect the work culture, like spending less hours in office and cutting down processes. So what do you think is like the balance of like touching on to like your own creativity flow versus being lazy and relying on AI? Because realistically, there will be people who make an advantage of AI. Yeah, so I just want to ask your approach on like how the work culture can be affected.
Yeah, I think you're touching a really right spot. I mean, we are by nature we are somehow lazy, right? I mean, we don't want to be like pushed too hard. Just find shortcuts. We will try to take it. Humanity in general will do that. So, and unfortunately, most of the designs that are done are not great. I would say in general, you see architecture, 90% is just almost copy paste, or just replicating the same model. And on those designs, they're very easy to be taken by AI. It's like you just feed with the models, the 3D models and spaces into a model, then just replicate what you have, which is somehow what happens still, but not with AI, right? So I think that will perpetuate that, which is not nice, and also will be not needing humans for that. So that's the problem. Is like it's a huge part of design that is almost automated, and I think that part definitely will be the most affected by AI, in my opinion. So I think it will be another part of designs and designers that will be even more relevant, which is the ones that will embrace AI, but you will have that touch even very present. I think maybe that will push designers even to stand out more, maximizing the power of the tools that we will have then to really stand out from the average design that can be produced. I don't know how the market will be rearranged, because maybe people still demand for the 90% of the architecture is done, and then, well, I mean, there's no so much like space for us. But I think we will definitely try to stay relevant, standing out from the average. AI is going to be definitely a way to produce kind of average designs faster, predictable, maybe reliable, but I think there will be space. There will be space for always for good design. But definitely we'll see changes. We'll see people that will take the shortcuts. Like, well, I mean, companies will say, just get a few AI experts here. We just feed the models. We just produce the buildings actually faster, maybe with less mistakes. Of course, cutting down the cost. So it will be a huge rearrangement of the whole industry. But as I said, I keep some optimistic view, thinking that the value that we add as designers with our education, with our background, with the roots that you're actually getting now in school, is what can make the difference in the future. Yep.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay, going from macro to micro, I was thinking about the neural networks, the design you had, right? I'm sure you studied the mass-produced version. Do you see any difference between the modularity versus the mass-produced versions, like design-wise, production time, something like that? I feel like the modularity, although it's interesting, it will be it's probably going to take a bit longer than doing mass-produced similar options, and then placing them how you would place them, because yours is very specific locations. Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't get the final part. So do you mean the modularity of a specific design, or in general?
For the modularity for your design, so it's they are each in a specific node.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the spatial, space frame design.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just switch to yeah. Sorry. Okay, that one basically the system basically targets the specificity of, let's say, the local conditions. I mean, it can be transported to different locations, and it's very, very fast. We have done it from Gardens by the Bay to SUTD, dismantle, put it back. So you can place it different locations, but it's designed for a particular geometry. So the angles and the geometry of it is bespoke. So all the nodes are printed for that particular configuration. It only can change in size. You scale the whole thing bigger or smaller, the geometry will remain the same. So I would say it's a way to optimize the structure. So you just basically do a design that is particular to those, loads and conditions. but I wouldn't say it's like it's modular because it's like parts, but it's not something you can combine and recombine. It's done in that way. So it cannot be changed in geometry and size. You can place in different sizes. So it's not targeting the kind of the modularity as the boxes that we have that it can be combined and rearranged. Here we're looking at a system that is very easy to fabricate and to transport into components, bars, and nodes. Actually, the one we did for Dubai, hand carry, just went to Dubai and then put it together. It was very fun. So that's the approach. The versatility with limitations, of course, of like is specifically designed for a particular thing, unless you design a very generic piece, and then you can make more of that. It allows for very constrained relationships or very bespoke angles.
Any more questions from our students?
Hi, in your experience in Singapore, right, how often does research, especially in AI, get translated into like production or within the industry? Like how does the industry accept that or turn it into production?
In which, like architecture, interior, or how in general?
Maybe all of it, like in your experience.
I mean, I would say there's a strong force like coming from industry of like willing to use AI. The thing is that not very clear, what is the use case yet. I think there are some approaches like using AI to optimize at the urban level. Say systems that could be like managed with AI. They're very complex, so that's one way. I'm not very close to that side of AI. I'm more in the what I showed here today, more the design, conceptualization, development. And I see that there's actually, developers, clients that they want to explore that. They say, well, something new. We want to maybe differentiate from others. So I think there's space for that. In Singapore in particular, the request from industry has been more on the training side. It's like asking me to train teams. I was working with Woha, with Richard, and to show the team what is possible so they can design with AI. So that's probably one thing that is happening in industry, to try to integrate the knowledge within the design studios to be able to say something. What is going to be said, I'm not sure. Also from other places, now I'm getting requests to do designs with AI at the concept level. Let's say, Carlos, we have this new mall, and especially for Middle East, this new mall design, and then we need to create some options with certain ideas that we have. So they give you a brief with words and maybe some references, and they want, in a week, maybe a number of options for them to progress. So that is a strong thing that's happening right now, because they used to maybe get some, maybe 3D modelers to create some simple designs. Now they're using AI. It's still very shallow. It's still very conceptually, still very not very deep, but they want to take that as a starting point of a more developed design. It's like, let's use AI to create a complete different concept for a mall, and then we try then to set the path to build it. So I see more of that trend happening right now from developers and from clients. The one from Miami was like, I want to use AI to design my restaurants. So I want to try to go full in AI and 3D printing. So from AI to make a 3D printed structure inside. So there are these kind of new requests. They're not mainstream yet, but I think there's an attraction to what's coming out, these AI designs, that I think at some point in Singapore will be more common to find that some of the designs are done with AI. I know some architects that are integrating AI in the creation of the projects, and they're trying to make it as a normal thing in the process.
Any more questions from our students? Okay, maybe just one last question for you before we wrap the session. I see that you use different ways to generate, from Excel to sketches and so on and so forth. So back to basic, simple question. How can the students start?
To start, I think there's a lot of resources online. And now the thing is, the knowledge is out there, and I would say the AI community is very generous. I mean, we share almost everything. So when I give a workshop or I teach, it's like I just share the latest thing, because I know that in 2 months it's old, so no point keeping it. So, and maybe we share the second thing because we need to prove that works, but okay, we just close to the latest. So there's a lot of resources online. There's a lot of there's some books that are now coming out in the last 1 2 years that are more relevant to AI. I think one is Diffusion in Architecture, just released. But there's a lot of content online. I would say it could be overwhelming. So it's important also to find certain curation of the content that you see. But there's a lot of videos that explains how it works. So just to get to know how it works is important. I mean, how AI works, not just magic words. I mean, it helps you understanding what you are actually doing. It also helps if you can watch some content on what I presented today, the stable diffusion thing with ControlNet. That tool for me is the one that enables us as designers to talk with the machine in a graphical way, in a way that we can make something and can be taken directly. So you want to watch some content there. I think that could be interesting. I'm self-learner somehow. When I was a kid, I was learning coding. It was 30 years ago or more, more than that. And there was not many resources, but I remember that I found some FAQ documents here and there. And that was the way I started. So I think with this, actually, it has a lot of content, but I would say try to watch, try to read, try to get from different sites. Maybe tutorials help, more theoretical videos as well. It can get you in, and then at some point you install it in your computer, you start trying, and then maybe you are already hands-on. It requires additional time. It requires maybe spending time overnight, like watching the videos and so forth. But I think maybe you start watching that and getting the content, and you get interested, it will be actually quite addictive, because you can see very clear that you will have superpowers that you can use, and that will make you a bit different to others. So it's just spare time, maybe just try to get into it. There are courses, but I think it's very organic. I would say just try to find some videos to start with.
Is Midjourney old already, or is it a good place to start?
Midjourney is something magic. For me, Midjourney is like space. Sometimes I have love and hate, moments with Midjourney. I've been away for 2 months from Midjourney because I was tired. I don't produce something that I'm happy with, so I just let it settle. But I always come back to it. Midjourney is, I would say, the most advanced model that we have. In terms of it's a general model, but it captures the details, it captures the nuances, and it's very realistic. So Midjourney is a very good platform to try. And now there are new features. You can actually try using images and styles, which is coming from either pictures or your drawings. It's not as precise as the one I showed here with ControlNet, but it really starts getting some inputs. And then I'm sure that they will introduce more features in the future. So it's just a matter of time. You start riding kind of the Midjourney wave. Now Midjourney 6 is very advanced. Incrementally we'll keep learning, right? The progression, and then you'll be very used to how it works. Midjourney for me is something to go for. If you want to learn prompting, go for Midjourney more than others like DALL-E or even there's some tools there that I don't advise you to go for, like LookX, for instance. It's very trendy because it's architecturally trained. You can do these renderings. For me, I don't rely on those tools because I feel like it becomes a tool because it's designed to do buildings. I'm more interested on the outer sphere. You can actually bring other disciplines to architecture. So then you can grab something from other parts of the model. So I wouldn't go for specific models of interior design, architecture, and I think that's a shortcut for me. For me, it's stay on a general model space to explore and to experiment. Midjourney, one way, more advanced, stable diffusion with ControlNet, but both are really, I move between one and the other. And that's giving you the control, right?
Thanks. Okay, we like to thank the Shandong University students for joining us, and most of all, of course, thank you, Carlos Banon.
Thank you very much for attending. And if you have any question in the future, you can reach me now. You have my IG. I mean, you can just DM me, and I will I will try to reply. And if you want to know more about specific things, just ask directly. I will try to reply. But well, thanks for coming, and I will see you around.
Thank you so much. Thanks.